Hello, and welcome to episode 4 of Concert Recollections from an Aging Rock Fan, or What I Can Remember from the Old Days after finding a box of my old tour programs from the 1970s and 1980s in a box in the loft. You can see some of them in the graphic here. Now, in this episode, a little bit of background to how the new wave of British heavy metal became my preferred rock music genre of choice. When the new wave of British heavy metal officially became a thing is open to debate somewhat, isn't it? And like the genre itself, what is new wave of British heavy metal is rather fluid. I'd say it started to emerge late 1970s, which was around the time I had my musical awakening, if you will, with the peak years being the mid to late 1980s. Though, of course, the new wave of British heavy metal is still very much with us today. Back then, bands would appear all over the country, each one eager to make their mark on the burgeoning NWOBHM scene. Some did, most did not, and many seemed to appear and disappear practically overnight. The term New Wave of British Heavy Metal, originating from the Sounds newspaper, weekly music newspaper, and their journalist at the time, Jeff Barton. I think it was a 1979 issue of Sounds, when he coined the term, and Jeff would become something of a NWOBHM champion. Another foundation was the legendary Soundhouse, run by Neil Kay, and also a legendary venue always associated with NWOBHM, the Ruskin Arms. We all know about that, don't we? Then in 1981, Krang magazine appeared, which carried all sorts of NWOBHM related news and stories and reviews and whatnot. And that became essential reading along with the likes of Sounds and New Musical Express and the Music Weekly newspapers. I'd devour each of them each week, each issue, to keep abreast of what was going on and find ways to get hold of what were usually self-released singles by bands which interested me or thought I'd like based on what I'd read about them. That was the usual procedure back then. A keen band would somehow self-finance and self-release a single, generally in limited quantities, and sell them via mail order or at the gigs. Some of them are quite valuable these days, if you might be still fortunate enough to have any. I still have the original Diamond Head album, one of those original 1,000 that they sold via Sounds. I don't play it because I think it's too valuable these days. Where I lived at the time in the Sheffield area, the NWOBHM scene was quite burgeoning back then. And of course, one band that were tipped for big things was Def Leppard. I was able to bag one of the original copies of their first EP, which they self-released back in 1979 on their creatively named Bludgeon Refola label. Just 3 songs on it, but what 3 songs they were. Ride into the Sun, Get Your Rocks Off were both indeed Bludgeon Refola, and then we had that expansive overture which took up side 2. That original copy of mine's long since been lost over the years, unfortunately, as have the early singles that they released after that, such as Wasted and Hello America. Now, of course, while Def Leppard did go on to hit the stratosphere and beyond, where they still remain in terms of success, I fell out with Leppard when the first album appeared back in 1980. I thought that was far too slick, far too overproduced, and I've never paid any attention to them since. Although I did see them live a good few times back then, and I'll talk about that a little bit more when I get to the Def Leppard specific episode, when I did remember seeing them in concert. Some other new wave of British heavy metal bands I discovered back then and had but no longer have their early singles include the likes of Mithra, Vardis, and White Spirit. There will have been others, though it was nearly 50 years ago, and I can't remember much from back then because I'm rather old now. The local new wave of British heavy metal scene was quite healthy. We had bands such as Geddy's Axe, China White, Seventh Son, Limelight, Rab Stallion, Mendes Prey, Vardis, Heritage, and many others that I've forgotten about. But again, that's just being an old man now and generally forgetful. As with the numerous gig going options back then, checking out support bands opened up more opportunities to find more bands that you might like. As a result of that, I discovered bands that I still listen to very much to this day, such as Samson, Witchfind, Angel Witch, Titan, Black Rose, Demon, Girl School, Grim Reaper, Saracen, Quartz, and many others. Now, at this point, you've probably noticed that I've talked about or mentioned many a band, but two that I haven't mentioned are, well, so far, Iron Maiden and Saxon. I'll talk more about Saxon in the concert specific recollections episode that's coming in the future. But as to Iron Maiden, arguably the most successful band associated with the new wave of British heavy metal, they've never done it for me. They've never moved me at all. You know, I was given their debut album as an 18th birthday present. Didn't like it. I tried to like it. I tried to like Number of the Beast, but I just could not get into anything Maiden did, and they just bypassed me over the years. Maybe that makes me some kind of heretic, I don't know. Anyhow, this is how the new wave of British heavy metal gripped me since the late 1970s, and how it's been my rock music genre of choice ever since. Many of the bands with their origins in the original NWOBHM days have come and gone. However, thanks to labels such as Obscure NWOBHM Releases, No Remorse Records, and Sonic Age Records, they continue to rediscover all sorts of lost and obscure bands from back then and make their stuff available. Whilst new wave of British heavy metal is my genre of choice, I do very much like my traditional heavy metal, my classic and prog rock. But for me, it's always been about NWOBHM. So this is how I got into it and remain into it. If you like what you've heard, and I hope you do, please consider subscribing to the channel for future episodes where I'll get more into concert-specific recollections about bands I saw and what I thought and everything like that. So please do that if you'd like to. And until then, until the next episode, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and take care.